At this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you the President of the School of Visual Arts, David Rhodes.
Thank you. Now, concession to age. Members of the board, honored guests, administration, parents, families, faculty, and most of all, soon-to-be graduates, I'd like to welcome you to SVA's 36th formal commencement exercises held in the honor of the class of 2011. I think it would be best to begin by thanking a few of the people who have made today's events possible. First, I'd like to thank the Commencement Committee, Milton Glazer, Kevin O'Callaghan, and Anthony Rhodes, who are chiefly responsible for the design of today's ceremony. I would also like to thank Lucky Checkley, Coordinator of Academic Advisement, and the academic advisors. Who are chiefly responsible for its size. Finally, echoing the words of the two previous speakers, I think we should all thank those parents, grandparents, friends, significant others, and in some cases children, whose emotional and financial support have enabled you all to reach this point. Thank you all. The expression, "may you live in interesting times," has been described as a translation of an ancient Chinese proverb or curse, whose provenance has come into question of late. It seems the phrase was coined by an English diplomat who was assigned to China during the beginnings of the Chinese Civil War, but prior to the Japanese invasion. It is thought that the purpose of the phrase is to wish ill upon its recipient, for life in unsettled times is thought to be difficult, fraught with insecurity, and dangerous. And it appears that we do live in interesting times, at least so far in 2011. Along the 30th parallel, from Morocco through Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Bahrain, with excursions north into Syria and south into Yemen, the beginning of this year has seen a series of unprecedented, nonviolent mass protests, unlike anything we have seen since the Velvet Revolutions of 1989 and 90, which brought new governments to Czechoslovakia, Poland, Hungary, Bulgaria, Romania, independence for Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, and the fall of the Berlin Wall. The parallels between these two sets of events are quite striking. In both cases, there were sclerotic regimes with little or no popular support, bent on retaining power not by persuasion, but by brute force. And in every instance, when those who were charged with the task of suppressing protest refused to oppress their fellow citizens, the regime fell with haste and little bloodshed. When the forces of repression did not stay their hand, bloodshed and stalemate ensued, as has been the case in Libya and Syria. From afar, this panorama of protest is a remarkable tribute to the human desire for dignity, even at the risk of one's health and safety. The two most successful uprisings in Tunisia and Egypt also share another characteristic with the prior Velvet Revolutions. The governing elites were not only morally bankrupt, they were quite literally bankrupt and unable to subvert the aims of the protests by purchasing the loyalty of their subjects or by suborning their collaboration by showering them with unearned privileges for themselves and or their families. Unfortunately, such is not the case as you move eastward along the 30th parallel. Money and the threat of withdrawal of privilege have successfully subdued protests in other countries, and in some cases have so thoroughly undercut the quest for dignity that protests, even of a clandestine nature, even as innocent as graffiti, have disappeared. Some regimes will survive and in fact may even thrive because many would prefer to live in uninteresting times. But this is, it seems to me, a fact about most of us. Compromise is generally preferable to confrontation, as confrontation is not the first resort, it is rather the last. And so how do you fit into this world? I've spent much of the last month looking at your work, and I must say you've done yourselves proud. The work is lively, engaging, often provocative, and sometimes deeply thoughtful, and invariably a delight to look at. Congratulations. As you will see later, during this last decade, SVA has welcomed an increasingly diverse, international, and as today's two ceremonies demonstrate, ever larger student body into its programs. With increasing size and scope come increased responsibilities. Although we all have immediate duties to family and friends, to the cities, states, and countries of which we are citizens, we all have larger duties to support, by word and by deed, those who have chosen the same path that we have, but who by circumstances of place of birth or citizenship do not have the opportunity to express themselves without fear of imminent retribution as you do. I should not tell you how to go about fulfilling this responsibility of solidarity, nor to whom you should lend your support. But I can tell you that these gestures of support are part of what it means to be an artist in the 21st century. And doing these deeds for others will make it less likely that others will be required to do these deeds for you. Congratulations again, and thank you.